in the taking of that, since we're all doing business, there are two kinds of people: those that are doing business with immunity, and those who have no immunity.
Boy, sure like to be the first in the first group. Is it possible for us all?
Absolutely.
Well,
that was the beauty of finding this peaceful settlement of dispute. And when I talk about the Matrix movie, Patrick, I mean, I'm so serious about it being about international law, and that Neo went to the city. He went back to the source and said, I want peace. The machine asked him, what do you want? He said, I want peace. And then, of course, he had to get that peace. He had to do something. He had to defeat Smith. But Smith was really Neo. It was just his alter ego, the me. You know, Smith would say it. The good thing about being me is there's so many me's. And this is how it's kind of looked at on the planet. And it was that me attitude that was tearing down the world. And that, as he was told in that battle, this is my world. Well, so when Smith was overcome by Neo, it was really him overcoming himself. He went to peace. And then there was a final scene where the Oracle and the Architect were talking. And he said, you played a dangerous game. And she said, change always is. Now, what about the others? He said, what others? He said, the ones that still want to come out of the system. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, of course, they'll be freed. What do you think I am, a human?
It's so curious. We've heard over the years that so many different things of things to come are put into motion pictures, like The Matrix, and even you had talked to me about Forrest Gump and other things. I don't understand. Like, I'm just getting into screenwriting. I mean, are you suggesting I won't be able to get my screenplay written unless somebody, like the CIA or somebody, gets involved?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
There's still independent things going on, but things that are written at this level, like The Matrix, was such a... I'll give you another... There's another movie that just came out that was an excellent movie. That was Avatar.
Sure, yeah, I just saw that.
And that was all about the, you know, how bad corporations are,
sure.
and pursuit of ore, let's put it that way, which was what was going on in the U.S. when they came over here. The Europeans, they were using the doctrine of discovery to drive the Indians off and say, well, if they're heathens, just drive them off their land and kill them, and because we want the gold and silver ore. And that really was what was going on. Okay. They wanted land claims and they wanted the gold and silver, which is why the land grants, if you read them, always had to do with giving King back 20% of the gold and silver ore in the charters. The Virginia charter was one, the Virginia Company. So in the movie Avatar, it was hilarious when the guy said, here's the reason we're here. He pointed to the metal, and he said, this metal is why we're here, unobtainium.
Interesting. Let's take this phone call. Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hello? Well, we'll put you on hold, and then you just answer on the air. You mentioned land grants several times. I'm not sure what that is. Give us a short... what exactly does that mean if the king or somebody gives us a land grant?
They were given the grants to the nobility. I'll give you, for instance, I talked about the notes on the state of Virginia, and this website is etext.virginia.edu, and Jefferson was a voluminous writer. I mean, he wrote extensively. So when I say that these men were the historians, they're the true historians. And he talked about the Constitution of Virginia and how Virginia got started. And it was started by, it says, Queen Elizabeth, by her letters patent, bearing the date 25 March 1584, licensed Sir Walter Raleigh to search for remote heathen lands not inhabited by Christian people, and granted to him in fee simple all the soil within 20 leagues of the places where his people should, within 6 years, make their dwellings. This was the grant.
Oh, that's a land grant.
Yes.
Do you and I and others need or want to actually have pure ownership, or what they call a allodial title and all that stuff, of where we live? Is that possible, necessary, or a prudent idea?
It would be a prudent idea, but you cannot do it as an individual. You have to do it as a state, and then it can be granted from the state. So if you came together with 50 other men, like you were talking about, then you grant yourself land out of that if you want to, or you can just simply leave it belonging to the state. So you have to understand, those men, the 55, or let's say the 39, when they said we do this to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, not your posterity, they still own the land grants, the posterity, whoever they are. And believe me, they know who they are.
Oh, you mean the posterity of the 39 who did the Constitution? They legally or lawfully still own this land?
Yes.
And they know who they are?
Yes.
Are
they also own the Treasury Department.
Oh, no, wait, who? They own what?
The Treasury Department.
They own the Treasury Department of the United States?
Yes.
But the Treasury Department of the United States is 18 or 10 or 20 or $50 trillion in debt. That's not such a great deal.
Well, for them it's a great deal because they became the middlemen to help offset and adjust the debts. They're the trustees of the bankruptcy, therefore they get paid no matter what. And so it's always been about growing and expanding for them. And as it said, I read that definition, constitutor, one who by simple agreement becomes responsible for the payment of another's debts. So when their contracts are citizenship contracts that whether it's American citizen or whether it's U.S. citizen, which in my mind, I go, there is no distinction between the two. It doesn't matter. It all had to do with the debt. And specifically, I can give you a case, Chisholm versus Georgia. People don't believe this, but it says at the Revolution that those men were sovereigns of the country, but they were sovereigns without subjects. Now, I question that immediately since they had slaves. So how were they sovereigns without subjects? Subjects means they didn't have any citizens. Those other people were still British North American colonists, British North American subjects of King George. Now, it also says in there that it says they had none to govern but themselves, meaning the 55. They could govern themselves. And they were recognized as having that sovereignty. Then it has a comma in there, semicolon, that says the American citizens, change language. Now we're not talking about sovereigns, we're talking about citizens. The American citizens were equal as fellow citizens and as joint tenants in the sovereignty. And the word tenant means renter. You get to pay the tax or the rent receipts on the land that belongs to the sovereignty.
Yeah, I don't like the way that sounds. Let's take this call, see if someone is actually there. Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
All right, my name's Michael.
Michael, speak up a little bit. Go ahead. You have a question or a comment for David?
Yeah, well, I was just listening on in, and I'm actually trying to get out of the system myself. And then pretty much the question, if for David, is if a process to go about as far as what I would have to do this.
To get out of the system. Give us what you mean by that. What do you mean?
Well, I've been dealing with a court system for 26 years now, and I haven't had any results as far as I've been on the losing end dealing with family courts, and my oldest daughter has been taken away from me. Currently, I can't afford to work on the books because of child support. So I live in here in New York State, and under the FDIC that governs the courts, they allow 65% to be garnished, and then taxes, and then Social Security. So basically about 80% of my earnings are taken away. So I'm trying to break away free from this corrupt system, and I'm just kind of curious on if you would happen to know of any processes of getting out of this trap.
David, can you advise this gentleman at all of what would be his next steps might be?
That's a difficult question, and I'm going to tell you why. This has mainly been done in the past by businessmen. I understand. I hear these stories like this, Patrick, all the time.
I bet you do. Yeah.
And they're heart-wrenching. And you see people, because they yearn for freedom,